Welcome to the Energetic Radio Podcast. My name is Dale Sidebottom. Each week, I'll bring you inspirational guests who will help you bring fun, energy, and purpose into your lives. Let the show begin. All right, everyone, welcome back to the podcast, episode number 258 with Ross Jayne. How are you guys?
Hi, we're well, thank you.
Thanks, Dale.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Now, we're just having a great chat before. Obviously, we are all in Australia. A lot of my guests recently have been in the States or overseas, so it's lovely to chat. Now, a big shout out to Brendan Jordan, who is a good mate of mine, and I know Ross used to teach with him. He's connected us. Great fella, Jordo. So thanks, Jordo.
Thank you, BJ. Cheers, mate.
And also, I really like it. I think one of the things about doing a podcast is you don't always know who's listening to it or how it connects people. And you're both saying that you'd reached out to Damien Murdoch, Doc Murdoch, from listening to the podcast. What made you reach out? Because I think it's something, people listen to these chats but don't always reach out. I think it's a really good skill, or just to let people know they've enjoyed there. So what made you reach out to him?
Yeah. Oh, you go?
Yeah, sure. Basically, we heard him on your podcast and we recognized the name because we've got a marketing strategist who works with us at the moment, and she's actually working with him as well. So we thought, we'll reach out and listen to his stories in a similar field to us. He's an anxiety coach, and so are we as well. We incorporate exercise as well. We just listened to it and really could connect with what he was saying. And we just thought, let's get in contact with him. We had a really good chat with him. We spoke to him for about an hour. I couldn't get off the phone to him. We're just picking brains about different things.
And football.
He loves his footy.
He does love his footy.
But I think he's had a similar backstory to you as well, Ross. And there was that connection of like-minded who have gone through a really tough journey in their life and then come out the other side. And I think that was beautiful to be able to share each other's experiences and really open up with each other and talk about what you've been through and how you 100%. Come out the other side. And
I think, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I just think if people can take away something, like so often we read something or we see something or we hear something, we don't actually reach out to that person and they don't know the impact they're having. So if any message you hear from anybody, reach out to them, because it really makes a difference. And that doesn't matter what field you're in. So Ross, we just mentioned a little bit there that you have had a similar backstory. And mate, it's pretty full on. I wouldn't mind hearing it myself. Do you want to explain, obviously, how you ended up in a psych ward in Spain? Do you want? I don't want to steal your thunder, mate. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Everyone. Can you just explain your story?
Thanks, Dale. I can laugh about it now, but it was pretty terrifying at the time. About 14 years ago, I suppose in the lead up to that, I was going on plenty of boys' trips around, traveling overseas and going through Thailand and South America and living in the UK for a period of time. And a few things were happening when I was, just taking some recreational drugs. I'd never really heard of drug-induced psychosis before. A few things happened, and it got to, I think I'd had 2 in the lead up to traveling through Spain, 2 episodes. And then, I had about a few days where I was just, this was simply just drinking in Spain. I didn't take any drugs, but there was a few days of just, I couldn't sleep and just sleep deprivation. And that just got me in the end. And I did not know what was going on in my mind, and I was out of touch with reality. And I just decided, look, I can't handle this anymore. There's a few days of this going on. And I just entered myself into a psych ward in Spain, and no one spoke any English. I was the only one. Everyone spoke Spanish, and I was stuck in there for a week, and no one spoke any English, and I was basically in my own interpretation of hell. It was pretty terrifying at the time. My dad and my brother ended up flying over from Australia to release me out of hospital, and then so that's why I was, I suppose, in there for so long and jacked up with medication, and then they eventually drove me home to UK, and then we flew out a few days later, and I was not in a good way.
Wow. So how did they handle, like, obviously a non-Spanish speaker walks into a psych ward in Spain. How did, like, did they try and get somebody that spoke English, or like what were like, or did they just thought, oh, we'll just medicate him and then he won't be an issue, or like what happened?
It was mostly medication. I had a few nurses that kind of took me under their wing. It's a massive blur now. Like that 7 days feels like, you know, the memories of that now is, you know, I probably have, you know, a little bit of memories. Like it's very much a blur. But yeah, I had a few nurses that brought me into their office from memory, and they wanted me to type. It was based, I think, in Google Translate or something like that. Yep. Just like what I wanted from them. And oh, mate, I do not know what I typed at the time. But I remember my ex-girlfriend at the time gave me a couple of books to read while I was in there just to keep me busy. And I remember it was something, Bridget Jones' Diary or something, and it was like, it was the only book she could find in Spain. And I remember she wrote some list, like, and I wrote them a list somewhat related to Bridget Jones' Diary, and I'm like, what? Like, I look back at that now, I can laugh, but I was like, that made full sense to me at the time. Yeah, look, that was pretty tough. I had a few friends come and visit me in there, and so I had about an hour a day where, I had some friends, and my ex-girlfriend came in and visited me, and would play some table tennis in the recreational area. And look, there was a guy I remember in a straitjacket with no teeth, like at one stage, and so it was pretty full on. Like, especially my friends had never experienced anything like that either, so I was quite ashamed, having them visit me in there. And that really took its toll on probably the next couple of years of depression and a lot of panic attacks and anxiety from that main experience in Spain.
Got no doubt. And like, we are laughing about it now because they are funny stories, but because you've been able to, come out the other side, which is brilliant. But obviously they're not laughing matters. So if people are listening and you do have issues or something, please seek professional help. With that though, like you said, the shame, when it shouldn't be shame, but that's something that we just generally feel. How did your friends, and obviously your brother and your dad who came over to get you out, like how hard was it for them? Because obviously everyone wants to help, but they just don't know how to.
Like you said, Dale, I think that's part of human nature to be ashamed. Look, having my dad and my brother come over and have to fork out all this money just to get me out of hospital, like to fly over. Look, they would have done anything for me at the time. But it was, look, I had amazing support from family and friends. It was probably really tough on everyone because they'd probably never really experienced anything like that before, especially it wasn't really talked about back. This is going back 14 years now. It wasn't really, there was more of a stigma around mental health, and people didn't really want to talk about it and relive those sort of experiences. So, look, my parents and my family were amazing support. My friends supported me in any way they could. They, when I got back to Australia, they were actually picking me up from my house, and we were going out and exercising together, and going out, and like they'd get me out in nature, and like they were doing all the right things for me that I needed at the time. But I was creating a lot of paranoid stories in my head where I thought people were talking about me behind my back. And it was a really tough time. And I look back at it now and just can't. I'm so grateful for those friends and family that were so supportive of me.
Were you telling people you had chronic fatigue as well?
And that was another thing, a part of the shame, is that I was telling people I had chronic fatigue and that I didn't want to leave the house because of that condition, but didn't really want to say, drug-induced psychosis. And, after 2 years of having anxiety, drug-induced psychosis and depression, I had a psychiatrist that told me I had schizophrenia as well. So that was really tough on me. And so I just, I didn't really want to talk about and tell anyone about it, but now I can talk about it. And I suppose I can be a role model to those who are suffering at the moment. And just show those people there is light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully coach them through that.
Mate. Well, and well done for telling your story, because the more people can share things like this, it becomes normal and it becomes okay. Like you said, the shame that comes with it. I don't think, unless you've gone through something like that personally or friendship group, you can probably think you'd know how to handle it as much as you want, but until you walk in those shoes, you've got no idea really. And I suppose what you're, like you said, they did the right things, but they were probably just doing things out of love. Like, do you reflect on it with them now, or like have you spoken to them what their experiences was?
Yeah, I do. I remember having a few conversations with mates and having that same conversation, Dale. So you don't really understand what I'm going through until I suppose you were to live those experiences yourself. I remember a few people were like, look, you'll get better, you'll be right. Like, kind of those conversations.
They mean well.
Like,
they mean well, don't they? But it's
they're meaning well. And I'll look back at it now and just, one of those people who said that is still my best mate. He lives up in the Gold Coast with me now, and it's like, you'll be right. Like, why aren't you getting better, sort of thing. Yeah. It's just like, I look back at that now. He's an amazing mate and such a supportive friend, but probably didn't really know what to say at the time. And I think now people do a lot more. I suppose you've got your Are You Okay days, and you've got all these resources on Beyond Blue and all these different websites that can help you have those conversations and be that supportive friend. But I had a lot of friends, even just, they couldn't handle it. They just didn't know what to say. And I could tell they were kind of trying to avoid those in-depth conversations where it was very much surface level. And I suppose that's what we're trying to create, is that, it's okay for guys to talk to each other and talk about their feelings. It's like, there's kind of this stigma around, you got to be this tough guy that you can't have in-depth conversations and like D&Ms. But we're trying to create something that, look, we can talk about it, and it's, it's part of life. And a lot of people are suffering from anxiety, especially, after COVID, it's been rife. We can talk about it, and hopefully that'll help those people currently suffering.
Yeah, so true. And I think, the more we have these conversations, the more normal it becomes. Now, one thing we always, we hear people's stories like yours, Ross, and congratulations for overcoming it. But like I spoke before, about your family. Jayne, what's it like when you've got somebody, that's battling depression, anxiety, has panic attacks? Do you know what I mean? The support network's really important, but obviously, firstly, what's it like for you? And then how do you stay on, I suppose, top of your game? So, that you're always there for Ross? Because, you're supporting someone, but you've also got to support yourself. It can't be easy.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think it's so important a lot of the focus gets put on the person struggling and suffering. And I know a lot of people who have been support people, and then in turn, they struggle as well. So I think it's so important to have that focus on yourself as well. And then when you're in an okay place to support them, then, you can give and share that. For me, when I met Ross 7 years ago, he was still on medication, told he'd be on medication for the rest of his life by his psychiatrist, so antipsychotics, antidepressants, there's a few other medications.
Anti-anxiety, kind of benzos and that sort of thing. So
a
lot of medication.
You would have nearly rattled, Ross, you would have nearly rattled, mate, you had that many drugs.
Literally. And every time we go out, he'll make sure he has his drugs available just in case.
It was like a security blanket. I just always have to almost have my pills in my pocket just to know that I'm going to be okay.
And I think I recognised that it was really a lack of confidence with Ross as well. As he said, he would make sure he would pack these before he went out, just in case. And I've come from a very holistic background, upbringing, so lots of meditation as a youngster. And so we tried to implement a lot of that. Well, I offered this to Ross, and he was amazing and has done a lot of work on himself. So, for instance, if he was having a panic attack, doing some box breathing or something to activate the parasympathetic nervous system to really help just calm him down and start to really center himself. And he was studying to be a teacher at the time, and he would find doing his assignments, he would get very overwhelmed and would always, and it was just the mind creating worst case scenario stories. What about if I don't get this assignment in? So it was really bringing it back and going, okay, well, what happens if you don't get the assignment in? Then you can just redo the assignment, or you just pay for that extra fee. You've still got your health, you're still here, so it was really just kind of bringing it back and going through those scenarios and kind of playing them out in his mind and realizing it's not the worst case scenario, it's not the worst event, and then bringing it back to where he was and just bringing that focus and really centering himself again. So we did a lot of work on breathing techniques and a lot of I think just work on himself. it's very easy to say, but it's taken years and years. And Ross, you know, himself goes off, does his meditations every day without fail,
Journaling.
Journaling, box breathing. So it's really like, I think it's beautiful being a support person. But I think, as you mentioned, you've got to take care of yourself as well and use things that you're comfortable with as well. I mean, Ross eventually went and spoke to his psychiatrist, and they organised a plan to wean off his medication over time. And that was something he addressed and he initiated himself. And so he's done so well since then. But it's about, I think, just finding a place that you're comfortable with and the support that you can give without putting yourself last, because then you'll just burn out as well.
Ooh,
so for me,
true.
I've been loving supporting. Sorry.
Yeah, so true. No, I cut you off there, Jayne. Sorry about that. But I think that last bit is so true, because so often we want to help somebody and we end up going that far that we end up needing to help ourselves. So was that like early on when you were just started dating and things like that? Obviously, you know, Ross's conditions would have played a huge role in it. Like, was that hard, or did you see? Are you a helper, Jayne? Or like, I'm really interested.
I love it.
Yeah,
I like that. I feel like that's my calling in life is to help and heal others and just be there for others. And I just loved it. So I mean, there was and for me, I had very supportive family and friends who were like, I remember. It was Hawthorn grand final after we won. And and the next day I went to the beach with a girlfriend, and Ross texted me maybe when you woke up, maybe mid-morning, and you had a few drinks that night, and Ross wasn't really drinking that much. And straight away he's like, I'm having a really bad panic attack. And I said to my girlfriend, I'm so sorry, this new guy I'm seeing is having a panic. Do you mind if I leave? And we'd just arrived to the beach, and she was like, go, get in the car. She was like pushing me. So I think it helps with the support people's network as well, to have, there was no remorse or no animosity from my friend being like, oh, well, we've just got to the beach. They were like, go straight to Ross. And I think I went round and your mum came round and we sat with you, and just really helped us. I think having a few drinks the night before didn't necessarily help either, but having, quite a severe panic attack. So I think having a network within the networks as well really helps. So for me, I've loved it. It was something Ross was very open about. The first night we kind of went out, we went to a football match, and there's a lot of football.
I've seen a common theme here.
And but Ross was really open, and that's what I was really drawn to. He told me about his past straight away that night, and he really opened up and was very authentic and real and vulnerable. And it was really beautiful just to hear someone speak like that, because a lot of time it is very surface, and it's, oh, how are you? That's good. What do you do? Yep. So it was really lovely to have that kind of deeper connection. And and with him being so open, it was, I guess, easier for me as well to be open back with him and kind of share advice and see what's going to work for him and what's going to help him along his journey.
I love that, because I think everything you've just mentioned, doesn't matter where you are, if you're in a relationship, friendship, at work, if you're transparent, if you're open and you tell the truth. And again, I think like Brene Brown says, vulnerability is a superpower. If you're able to use that, like telling your story today, not only Ross sharing yours about what you've been through, but Jayne, what you've gone through as well, because it's a journey that you're both on together. So with that being said, Ross, like obviously people never, like mental health conditions, something that, it never really goes away. It'll always still be there. So do you still like battle a bit of anxiety or depression, or do you have panic attacks? Like, is there any of that, or the work you put in now has really sort of cleared it all up?
Yeah. I suppose I have all the strategies in place now after 14 years of having these, panic attacks and so forth. I haven't really had a panic attack in probably maybe around the time Jayne and I met, really.
Wow.
So we'll put it all down to Jayne.
But you were having night terrors every night when we met. Like, you'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming, and every night without as well as panic attacks.
But I suppose I've really, like, I sometimes get some like anxious feelings. Like, I suppose in the lead up to this podcast, there was a little bit of anxious feelings, but you kind of, I suppose you start to use that now as a bit of a superpower. Like I did some box breathing before. I don't know if anyone knows about box breathing, but it's like a 4 square breathing. So you do 4 seconds, inhale, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold and then repeat. And that just really just calms the nerves and activates the parasympathetic system and gets you really calm and ready just for things like this. So now I suppose I know now how to deal with certain things, and every now and then I might have a little flashback to an old episode, but I just kind of know what to do now. I can kind of shut it off and go, look, that's not real. Like it feels really real for a couple of seconds, and then you're like, well, I've had it for so long now that I've just know the strategies how to deal with it. So
training your mind, I think, has been a big thing, to know the difference between reality and where the mind's wandering off creating stories. Because I think we all do it, but it's how far we go with those stories, and then when we start to believe it, and then we make it our reality, when in theory it could just be something someone's given us a look which wasn't actually directed to us, and it may have been to someone else, but then our minds created this big story, and they're a horrible person, why were they looking at me this way? So it's really bringing that back, I think, and being aware and conscious of your thoughts and the patterns of your thoughts and those processes, and then understanding that. And when you've got that awareness, I think it makes it a little bit easier, and the tools you have implemented in place in case you do have those anxious moments.
And like what you're really saying there is that a lot of these things that we build up and cause, that it's just when we're not present, we're thinking about things that may not even occur, but we make them realistic, and we work ourselves up, and that's nobody else. Like you just said, Jayne, somebody gave you a look and they might just be having a bad day, but you've taken it like they've given you a greasy. You're like, oh, what have I done wrong? And have I upset him? Did I park? Did I cut in front of the car? Like all these things, like, we just go on and on and on. But if we just came back to being present, and essentially, Ross, that's what you're saying with your box breathing, that allows you to realign and become present again.
Yeah, definitely. And look, we do, there's so many things we do now for our overall health. We try and get outdoors. Like we've got a bit of an accountability thing going on at the moment,
which is important.
We just get ourselves outdoors for at least an hour a day. We either do some sort of physical activity. It might be just going for a walk along the beach. We do a lot of exercise with our clients, so it's obviously exercise, and then we do a guided kind of meditation every night before bed. So there's all these strategies we have in place that keeps your overall physical, emotional, and mental health, kind of performing at its best.
And I guess it becomes habitual after a while. It's just second nature, just like wake up, do our meditation, do our exercise. It's just part of our daily lifestyle.
And I think the big thing as well, you just mentioned, that you keep each other accountable. Now, if people are listening, it doesn't have to be your partner. It can be a friend, or like you were saying, Ross, when you were going through everything, that your friends would pick you up to exercise. They were keeping you accountable. They were doing that for you. Like with all the work you do now, how important is that accountability, or showing up, or having somebody there that you don't want to let down?
Yeah, I think so. Especially, I think the most important are the days where you just are so unmotivated and can't be bothered. The days you feel great and really want to exercise, that's wonderful. But it's those days where you wake up and you're like, oh, I just feel exhausted. It's those days. And it doesn't have to be something overly exertion of exercise, or, it's just maybe going for a small walk, or just something, though, to just tick those little boxes. And for us, we deal with a lot of people who are struggling with depression. And for them, sometimes it's just 5 minutes of something, and it's keeping those goals really small and then ticking them off. And so they start to feel good about themselves, and then gradually building them up. And if that means, we always recommend to tell someone your goals as well. And in that way you can be accountable as well. So then they can check in on you. If they don't want to do it with you, for instance, they can say, oh, did you do this today? Or did you go outside for 5 minutes and do your little walk? So I think accountability is so important. For us, it's very lucky that we both love exercise, and we both enjoy working out. I'm doing a lot of regression being pregnant at the moment, so I'm doing a lot of regression exercises, and Ross gives me the easier options, but it helps for different levels of fitness as well. I think accountability is very, very important, and just to check in on others as well.
Yeah, it is. And like so obviously let's talk about quick results training, because people are listening. I'm interested to know, I know a little bit about it, but do you want to explain, who you work with, and probably the people that are coming to you? And second part of that question, sorry, before you do that, have you noticed a difference over the last couple of years with COVID? That would be my second part to that. So quick results training, give us a spiel. And then has that changed in the past 2 years?
Yeah, well, that's actually been the change focus of our business, just going in. Ross, being a personal trainer and a teacher, PE teacher, did a lot of face-to-face. And then we noticed with COVID, that's when we moved online. And we also noted that so many of our friends and family members were struggling with anxiety and depression through all the lockdowns, and it just became rife everywhere. So that was the premise of starting our business, to try and assist those who are struggling. And with Ross's previous experience with lived mental health struggles. So we created our online business, which is Quick Results Training. And so it's specifically targeted to help people who are dealing with anxiety, depression, social anxiety. We don't really go into the what Ross experienced, like the psychosis or the schizophrenia, for example, or bipolar, people struggling with more acute illnesses. We highly recommend they go see professionals, as you mentioned earlier. And for a lot of our members, they are on medication as well. So they're kind of using this as a balance for both, the holistic approach through exercise, mindfulness, healthy eating, as well as having their medication. So for us, we really noted, well, what was really evident with COVID as well is there wasn't a lot of health advice to exercise, to get vitamin D, to eat healthily. And that was so evident to us.
Gyms were closed.
The gyms were closed. Bottle shops and fast food remained open. And we really found that we've had that many chats with counsellors, psychologists, and who think exactly the same. And they said, these are the fundamentals of living a healthy lifestyle. And this wasn't being directed to the public, unfortunately. So for us, we really wanted to kind of just help others who were really struggling and just give them some other options and say, we offer online exercise for people in their home so they don't have to go out. So throughout all the lockdowns, I think that really helped a lot of people. We've just noticed with COVID just how many people were struggling out there. So that kind of became the foundation of QRT and assisting others through more holistic and exercise options.
And I love that. And one thing I've noticed, and a lot of work I've been doing, is people are getting me in because people are feeling social anxiety. They're scared of going back to the normal, particularly being in Melbourne, like we were one of the most locked down cities in the world. I don't want to talk about too much, but people are really battling with it. And I don't see it changing anytime soon. So how important has it been for you both offering, people can get the benefits while they're at home so they feel safe? Have you noticed that that's being a real godsend because they feel safe, they feel secure? I won't steal your thunder, but I'm really interested to see, because a lot of people just wanted to get out of the house, but so many other people are scared to do that. So what have you seen from that aspect?
Yes, we run a lot of our sessions on Zoom. So it's allowed, it brings me back to when I was really struggling, that I didn't really want to leave the house. I had a lot of social anxiety. And for me, the thought of going to the gym or getting outside to exercise would really stress me out. I'd get a lot of anxiety around that. So basically the majority of our business now is all online through Zoom, and people can exercise from the comfort of their home in their lounge room. And we generally do about a 30-minute session, and then we follow it up with just an open space to chat about our feelings, or it's like a Q&A about maybe my story or what strategies helped me when I was really struggling. We also run breath work and mindfulness, facilitate those sort of classes at the end of our exercise sessions as well, to get us feeling really calm. But I suppose we just brought it back to how I was feeling during those most acute stages, and people, I didn't want to leave the house. So giving people that ability to still exercise and get involved with our sessions in their lounge room was amazing for people. And we also run, like I'd film pre-recorded sessions for people who might only be able to achieve 5 minutes. So it might be a really slow, easy routine where you just get the body moving, get the endorphins flowing for 5 minutes, and that's just an achievement in itself. So we've got a lot of different options for.
And I think people loving connecting with others as well afterwards. Some people have their cameras off when they're exercising, which is absolutely fine. But afterwards, when they can open up and chat, I think they're really loving just having that connection, because they don't necessarily feel comfortable going out to a bar or a restaurant. So just being able to chat virtually, I guess, it's been really helpful for a lot of people. And feedback, especially with people, because a lot of people are still working at home, especially in Melbourne. We've got quite a few clients, and they said, they're just more productive, and they're just, they find, just because we do some lunchtime sessions as well. So they said it just helps clear their head, calm them down, especially if they've got looming deadlines and things. They can just go back to work and just be a little more centered and a little bit more focused, which is great.
And I love that. I think the chat at the end, you know what I mean? Like that would be invaluable for people, particularly, you know, if they're living by themselves, they don't really leave the house much. They're still working at home. Everything's online. So I think that is brilliant. But have you found, Ross, particularly, you know, people are more relatable because you've walked the walk, you've been able to overcome something like that a lot of people don't, mate. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people are on medication for the rest of life, and that is fine. But do you think you're a role model, basically, I'm sure, to a lot of these people because you've been able to overcome something that so many haven't?
Yeah. I think lived experience is so significant. Like I think to myself 14 years ago, and I was like pleading with my psychiatrist to meet someone who'd been through the other side of what I'd been through. And I could just have a chat to them about, you know, what helps them and what strategies you put in place to help with your recovery. And I think now I can be that role model for that person I was seeking 14 years ago. So I think it's really helped. Like we've got a gold package, which is like one-on-one training and coaching with the both of us as well. So if people don't feel that comfortable, like telling their story in front of a group, we've also got those one-on-one situations that people have really loved as well. And yeah, it just feels like we've got a bit of a purpose now that I've come through out the other side and I'm able to help those people struggling. And it's exactly what I was seeking when I was really suffering. So yeah, it's amazing.
I think like we just said, that personal story, you can really be relatable, and people want to, obviously, someone that's lived that and been able to overcome that's amazing. And Jayne, I also think the way you described the role that you have played, because I think everybody's a team, doesn't matter what aspect of life you're in. And it is really important to realize that I think the biggest takeaway I've got, besides Ross, well done, but Jayne, that you have to look after yourself as well, because too often you see people get so caught up in helping somebody else and they really forget about themselves.
Exactly. And I think it's also so important. Like Ross gives me a lot of credit, but he's done all the work and he's accountable. Like I was like, oh, this is, you know, let's go do a mindfulness or meditation. But Ross has implemented all these, and he doesn't often say this, but he's done years and years of work on himself. And the credit is solely with him, because I mean, you can tell people or give instructions, but it's up to you and within yourself whether you're going to be accountable and do it. So for him, and he's made that habitual and made that into his lifestyle now. So I think there's a lot of credit to the person. It's very hard if you don't want to help yourself. It's very hard to help others as a support person, or as just even a friend, so to speak. I think you've got to be willing to want to make a change, or be at a point in your life where you are struggling and you think, okay, this is not serving me. What am I going to do today that's different from yesterday? Because if I'm not implementing changes, why do I expect a different result? So
bang, that's mic drop sort of set up right there, Jayne. So true. And like, nothing's going to happen in your life unless you want to make it happen yourself. You know, we can tell people what to do all they want, but they never listen. So if people are listening and you want to make a change, where can they find you? Where's the best spot to reach out and obviously just start the conversation?
Yeah, sure. So our website, you can check out www.quickresultstraining, so QUICK resultstraining.com. We will just say our surname is Quick, so it's nothing about getting quick results. It's a bit of a play on words. Just want to clarify that. It's definitely not just a quick process, a quick fix. Yes, our website's probably the best place to check us out. And then through there, you've got all our contact information, so our emails, and it's got all our social media accounts. But also, we've got a lot of free resources on there. So we've got a 7-day free trial, which we'd love to offer all your listeners, just a program which they can just join in for 7 days, no strings attached, no credit cards required, just to start that journey for themselves. They might do 7 days, start joining in some live exercise classes, having some chats. We've got loads of free resources on our website, so they can check all them out and just start to help themselves and get to, just to make that first step, I guess, and make that first decision to put their hand up and go, I'm going to be accountable, going to help myself now and try something new.
Well, I love that. So listeners, thank you so much for the 7-day free trial. If you go to episode 258 in the show notes down the bottom, I'll have links for all of that where you can contact Ross Jayne and reach out and give that a try. 7 days for free. What have you got to lose? So thanks so much for being on the show. And I think the more you can share both of your stories, I think one of the big things I've taken away is that there's no right or wrong way as support group or friends to deal with somebody that is going through these mental health issues, but the biggest thing is you can't change them. You just need to be there. And I think that's the big message. And the more you share your story and work with people, the more okay these conversations become. And as a society, we need that. So Ross Jayne, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.